Welcome to my channel, Stars and Stripes Stories. Today, I'll take you into a tale that feels almost too extraordinary to be true. It's not about medals, not about rank, and not even about a name written in history books. This is the story of a woman whose silence, courage, and precision once shook even the most hardened warriors. She had no uniform stitched with stars, no stripes on her shoulders, yet a SEAL commander, one of the toughest men alive, once raised his hand in salute to her. The story begins not in the deserts of war, nor the jungles of shadowy missions, but in the quiet woods of Montana. There, a young girl grew up in solitude, the daughter of a hunter and a schoolteacher. Her father, a man of few words, believed in teaching by silence. He didn't hand her a rifle the first day she asked. Instead, he made her walk the woods, learn the sounds, feel the wind, and wait. A shot is easy, he would tell her. Patience isn't. By the time she was 15, she could sit for hours in freezing snow, steady as stone, her breathing slowing to the rhythm of the earth. She didn't fire for sport. She fired when she had to, clean, precise, never careless. People in the nearby town whispered that the girl had eyes sharper than a scope. But she didn't care for attention. She lived her life in the rhythm of nature, in shadows and silence. Then, years later, war called, not to her, but to the men and women who fought it. She didn't wear a uniform. She didn't stand in any lineup. But fate has strange ways of finding those who are meant to be there. It was in a conflict far overseas, where SEAL teams were pinned down by an enemy that seemed invisible. In the mountains, gunfire echoed, and every step meant the difference between life and death. The SEAL commander in charge was hardened, seasoned, and unshakable, or so he thought, until that day. His men were trapped in a ravine, enemy fighters firing from ridges too far and too hidden to engage. Air support couldn't lock the targets. Every movement meant another casualty. The commander radioed for backup, but none could reach in time. Hope was thinning. Then it came, a single crack, thunderous and sharp, echoing off the stone walls. One hostile dropped, then another. Silence for a moment, then chaos on the enemy side. The fire that had pinned them down fell quiet, one shot after another, surgical, distant, almost ghost-like. The SEALs looked up toward the ridge, and in the haze of dust and smoke, they saw her. A lone figure, lying prone on the cliffside. No insignia, no rank, just a rifle steady in her hands, as if carved there by destiny itself. Her hair was tied back, her eyes fixed through the scope, her finger calm on the trigger. The commander couldn't believe it. Who was she? How did she get there? Yet none of those questions mattered as her bullets tore holes into what once felt like an impenetrable wall of fire. She wasn't frantic. She wasn't desperate. Each shot was deliberate, spaced with an eerie patience. By the time the last hostile fell, silence claimed the mountains. The SEALs, breathless and shaken, began to climb toward her position. They expected perhaps another soldier, maybe a local militia fighter. What they found left them speechless. She stood as they approached, her rifle slung over her shoulder, her clothes simple and weathered. Dust clung to her skin, but her eyes, those sharp, steady eyes, seemed untouched by war. The commander asked her name. She only shook her head. He asked her unit. She gave no answer. All she said, in a voice calm and low, was, "You're clear now. Go." The men didn't know what to make of it. Soldiers are trained to follow orders, to report, to salute ranks and badges. But she had none of that. Still, something about her demanded respect. More than any stitched insignia ever could. The SEAL commander, a man who had never once saluted a civilian in his entire life, did something unthinkable. He stood at attention, his hand rising to his brow. His men followed. In that silence, in that ruined battlefield, the salute was not to a name or a rank, but to a spirit that had saved them all. After that day, she disappeared. No one knows how she got there or where she went. Some believe she was an embedded scout, a ghost of war who never wanted recognition. Others whisper she was just a woman who wandered too far into conflict and answered when fate called. The commander never spoke her name, not that he ever knew it. But years later, when asked about the most remarkable person he'd ever encountered, he told the story of a female sniper with no badge, no stripes, and no country claiming her. Sometimes, he said, a warrior isn't made by uniform or orders. Sometimes, she just is. The story spread in hushed tones, not in official reports but in the quiet conversations of those who had seen her. Around campfires, in barracks, and in after-action briefings whispered off the record, she lived like a legend. Soldiers began to call her the Phantom Daughter, a name born from equal parts reverence and mystery. For the SEALs who survived that day, her memory wasn't a myth. It was bone deep. They had seen her steady hand. They had felt the shift from despair to hope when her rifle spoke. And they remembered the salute, a gesture more powerful than medals or ceremonies. Years passed, and her story faded from headlines, but not from hearts. Somewhere, perhaps, she returned to her quiet woods, walking again in the silence of trees, her rifle resting not as a weapon of war, but as an old companion. Perhaps she lived a life unnoticed, her legend only alive in the men she saved. And maybe that was enough. Because not every hero wants their name carved in stone. Some prefer to be the whisper that lingers, the unseen hand that steadies history. And in that silence, they live forever. So, when you hear of warriors, don't only think of uniforms, ranks, and medals. Remember also the nameless, the ones who never asked for glory but gave everything in the moment it mattered most. This was her story. A woman with no rank, no name, and yet a SEAL commander, hardened by war, saluted her as if she carried all the stripes of the world on her shoulders. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these forgotten tales alive, reminding us all that courage often comes from the most unexpected places.